All right, I'm going to talk about Astroneer and some comments that I've read on, I've seen on YouTube, some videos that I've watched about recent developments from dev Q&A sessions, and this is after the automation update that was just released just a few weeks ago. And a lot of the questions and comments that I've seen people have and complaints is the Astroneer is too short of a game. And then there needs to be something done to make the game last longer because you're done with it. Now, let me preface this by saying I have never beat this game. It's not that I can't, it's just that I don't care to because I've seen what happens at endgame and I really don't care. What I really enjoy about this game is the fact that I can just destroy I really like destroying stuff. So just getting my multi-tool out, my extractor vacuum, and digging up some soil and getting some ammonium and getting resin and collecting all that stuff. It's a very simple game. It's a very fun game. I really love playing it, even though it's riddled with bugs, even after final release, I believe. Um, I I do think there are some things that can be changed or altered in such a way that the gameplay for some that want it could really be expanded. And that brings into my first point is that so not everybody's going to want to play in this fashion. So there could be a new play style created for this. I don't know if you want to call it corporation or enterprise, intergalactic trade, something to that effect. But we've got an adventure game now, and we have creative made games. So you got two modes. Adding a third for expert gameplay would be the first step. And I've made some notes. So I'm going to try to refer to those as much as I can. So that being said, I've never beat the game. I really enjoy the base building component to it. Part of the problem for me is that I get everything. I get a starter base set up on Silva, and then as soon as I can, I get the Glacio, and that becomes my permanent base. Just because the Titanite that's there is really good for those medium silos. That lets me go out and just really grab a bunch of materials, ship it back and forth on my tractor and trailers. Plus the bites that I've found, at least for me, the bite rocks are very abundant. The little crystals on the posts, on the stalagmites. Going around just harvesting those, you accumulate a lot of bites very quickly, and so I can unlock a lot of the components in the game very quickly once I hit Glacio. So I get there, set up a mini base with I forget what it's called, the rock grinder, to harvest my bites, and I get rocks get going, and so gets things going really fast. So between the Titanite, then I go to the Viscera or whatever it's called, I don't know, and I get a whole bunch of lithium, and that's now my battery pack. So between those three planets, Calidor, you got to get some components of Calidor and Atrox because was it helium is the only thing you can get and Atrox. Well, Atrox is the only planet that has helium. So anyway, but that being said, I really enjoy the base building. I love just playing. I just love playing the game. But I do agree that it's way too short, especially after automation was implemented. I know they're working on automation 2, but I really don't understand why automation 2 is even needed when automation 1 isn't. Because arms are easy to get for automation. That's a really quick thing. But the large resource containers, I believe, require nanocarbon technology, which is kind of late game, tier 3 material. So by the time you have the ability to make and process nanocarbon technology, you really don't need to process a bunch of the lower components on a scale that would require automation. I don't know if that makes sense. And I don't know if the devs want this to become a Satisfactory or a Factorio or one of those factory automation games. If so, I personally would absolutely love that, because I love Factorio, I love Satisfactory, I love the automation games. In fact, I wish they would have put some of this automation in much earlier, especially for that period where certain components were broke. I think was it the furnace, the smelter wouldn't take things out. Oh no, it was the chemical mixer, chemistry station wouldn't automatically move parts out onto an empty spot on the platform it was on. That was extremely frustrating. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, like I said, I've watched some YouTube videos, some comments that other people have had about the game, and it really fixated on me, the need, or at least the desire. I think it'd be super fun if we could make the game last much longer, make it a survival / exploration / automation / intergalactic trade game. I think that'd be really cool. So anyway, here's some of my thoughts, and I made some notes, so I'm going to be referencing them. So additional resources. Right now, there's not that many. Well, I mean, there are quite a few resources, but by the time you've played this game a few times, there's really not that many resources. One option would be to create a bunch of new resources. On my list, I've got 20, but if you could make 100 new resources, which would really increase the complexity that could be required to make some of the existing tier 2 and tier 3 materials and components that you can make some of those components super rare. Why is Astronium so abundant on the planet's core? If it's not going to be used for anything, make it rare. And if you're going to use Astronium for something, make it for warp fuel to get to the additional solar systems, which brings me to my second point. Allow additional solar systems. There's only 5-6 planets in this game, and like I said, I only go to about 3 or 4 of them, because once you have a soil centrifuge built up, you really don't need to explore a planet much further for those base components. You can just level a mountain, just go out and tear up a mountain. I get my backpack full of, I got 2 batteries, 2 air canisters or oxygen canisters, 4 soil canisters, and I just go to town on a mountain until I get the large rover or medium rover, whatever it is, and with a drill and a vacuum or a paver, and I just start leveling soil canisters. I fill them up, and that's all you need. You get all the resin, quartz, ammonium, all that you need. So if I have additional solar systems, that would allow for additional planets. Additional planets could have, just like in the current system, some planets and additional systems would only have some of those new resources. So make me go find that. Make me go get it. That allows me to spread out a lot of the resources that currently exist in the game to additional planets. Talk about additional systems, that would require you could implement additional ships, because let's say the current ships that we have can't handle the vastness of space. So create 3 new ships, just like you have now, but with a higher component needed and a toughness, right? So so you need ammonium or aluminum now to make the first ship, to aluminum. Add a bunch more that's needed for a warp ship, and that can include astronium. Say, to make warp fuel, you need hydrazine and astrazine, and find some new way to make astronium into a warp fuel. Process that astronium into another component or 2 to get you the hydrazine. Oops, you see that. So that's a whole nother level of ship, a whole nother level of fuel that we need. A lot of people were talking about, one of the complaints that I saw was that there's an overabundance of resources currently in the game, which one of the reasons for that is the planet sizes over time have been shrinking. I would recommend that you double or quadruple the planet sizes, but leave the number of nodes that are generated on each planet as they are now, so that everything's spread out further. Really make me go out there and find some more resin and some more compound. Make me really go out there and find it. Another solution to that, to make the game stretch with the issue of an overabundance of resources, is to introduce ingots into the game. So currently the level 1 ship requires 2 aluminum blocks. Let's say I'm going to make a warp ship, or a ship for inter-system travel, or intergalactic travel. Make that level 1 tier 2 ship require 2 aluminum ingots. And let's say 100 aluminum bricks would be smelted in perhaps a new smelter into aluminum ingots. So I would need 200 aluminum to make 2 aluminum ingots to go to another planet. I don't know. Ingots could go a long way in really making the player consume a lot of those overabundant resources that are out there. That being said, I think I'm going to get interrupted because my wife's coming in. Power consumption. So yeah, I'm going to start over with power consumption. Somebody on the forums had mentioned that they wanted to see a large windmill, but I've never had any problems with power whatsoever in this game. You struggle with power at the beginning because all you can make out of is this single generator, and then you're out cutting the grass trying to feed your generators to make a little bit of power that you can to feed the few things, and then all of a sudden you've unlocked solar or wind, and all you need is quartz, and now you've got a windmill farm. It's not difficult at all, especially with the amount of quartz that you can just go grab a node from under the ground, and now the next thing you know, you've got what, 100, 200 little windmills all strung together. It's not very difficult to have power. So one of the solutions to that, to make me use some of the resources that are out there in abundance, is to require the machines to use more power. Like a large printer, I think right now only uses like 3 units per second. I think the most that's out there is the AutoExtractor. It uses 8 units of power per second, which is fine. You attach a couple RTGs or solar, go out there and build a solar farm to it, and it's powered up. It's not a problem. So a solution for me to use more resources that are overabundant is to create the need to really expand those solar farms or those windmill farms or whatever I need. So instead of a large printer only using 3 units per second, why not 20? Why not 50, 100? If you really want me to get to another system, have that large printer require a long time to build that, a lot of power to build that second ship, or even get off the planet. Anyway, power could be revamped in such a way that alone could make this game much more challenging to do. I don't know what it would take. It would take to get 100 units per second. What that's 100? Let me look it up. We have the internet, because according to Gamepedia or whatever, the small solar panel creates 0.5 units per second. So I would need 200 of those suckers to just automatically fill, and I'll build it. I'll go out there, I'll harvest it, I'll build it. I got no problem with that. So yeah, increased planet sizes. I talked about that. That would thin out the resources a little bit, spread that stuff out to make me really go out there and get it. One thing I don't have in my notes that I just thought of is, I know it's been talked about, is mod support. If the developers of this game let mods happen, there's a lot of people out there that are just chomping at the bit to go nuts and make a mod or mini mods for this game. One mod that I would love to have is in the upper right corner or upper left, wherever I want to put it. I just want 2 sensors. I want a gauge for my backpack energy, and I want an oxygen gauge. There's just 2 little meters. Give me a number, a percentage. That would be, it doesn't have to be big, just so I can look up there and see that, oh, I'm running out. Because a lot of times when I'm playing, I'm listening to music, and I don't like the game music and sound so repetitive. So I don't always hear that I'm gasping for breath, and I don't always hear that or see that I'm about ready to just drop out of energy. So a gauge up there would be some kind of UI would be super nice. Mods could do that. But allowing mods would open the community for a level of Astroneer that I think would blow us all away. Final thoughts. I think instead of worrying so hard about trying to get true flat, which is never going to happen, it's fine, I get it. As a programmer, some things just be like, hey, look, this is more effort than it's worth. We've gotten it as flat as we can possibly get it. I don't even care about true flat anymore. Why not just introduce a few simple base building components? Give me a floor tile. Make it whatever size you want. If I had a floor tile that was just as big as the small packages that you make right at the beginning of the game, and that cost me 100 compound for that one floor tile, I will harvest an entire planet to make me a base. I would have no problem with that. That's just an example. You make the tile sizes wherever you want, but that would allow me to just throw that down there, and with snapping, allow me to build my own true flat platform. And I wouldn't have to waste so much time and frustration trying to find the right polygon to land my cursor on so that I could get the true flat over here that I started over there. And I know it's not going to be the exact same polygons angle. So, some base tiles, you get floor tiles, ramps. That would be amazing to just have ramps up and down. Walls. Those 3 right there would greatly improve the game. And again, that's another way to consume all of those resources that are very abundant. Have different kinds of tiles made out of different components that do different things. Some solar panels. I could put my roof panels on my base. I don't know. There's lots of different ways you can go with that. That's just some of my thoughts that I've had over the last couple of days as I've gotten back into Astroneer, and how it could be changed and altered so that it could be a much longer, much more challenging game. And I know people have talked about bringing back storms. That might be fun too. I remember back in Alpha when I was playing this that the windstorm would come along, and if I didn't have resources locked into storage compartments, they were gone. And sometimes my power belts or my oxygen line got blown away. So that's another thing that you could add back into this. I know people have talked about it. Solar flares. I don't necessarily think about adding like creatures into it, because I think as much as this game already struggles with processing PCU power, RAM, memory, there's a lot of optimization that in my opinion still needs to happen, although it has come a long way. But I shouldn't need an 8 gig video card just to play this game, because it's not that in depth. That might be something. Add a new gun, add a new mod for your exo tool to shoot monkeys out of trees. I don't know. There's lots of different, harvesting gophers might get you a new resource that you might need to have. add another race. Say, hey, I've got all these resources. What am I doing with it? If we're going to have multiple systems, why not have a system where, you know, you have quests every once in a while? An alien race will pop up and say, hey, we've used all the astronium at our planet's core for energy. We need some. Do you have any more? We'll give you this other resource for it. Sure, I'll go harvest all this astronium. Give you this. I don't know. There's lots of different ways to expand the game and make it not really more enjoyable, but make the enjoyable experience that it already has last longer. Those are my thoughts. Also, one thing that I just thought about was automation is now in Astroneer, and I don't really think that automation is really needed. I mean, there's nothing really in this game that needs to be that's so cumbersome that it needs to be automated. And I think by adding ingots and more complex components, automation might really be might be needed. But by the time I can build a large resource canister that holds 400 resources, and I get that out and build that, what do I really need 400 iron? What do I need 400 ammonium? What do I need 400 graphite? Why do I need that much? There's nothing in the game right now, current state, that would require that much resources of anything. Again, like I said, unless you introduce some new component like ingots, that, hey, we got to go out and get 400 aluminum or alarite or laterite because it's gonna to build this third tier Gen 2 ship. It requires, you know, 50 aluminum ingots. I'm gonna have to auto harvest a crap ton of laterite for that. Yeah, you're going to need a couple of sites. You're going to need a couple of those large resource canisters. You're going to need a bunch of that stuff. So I really don't see a huge need for automation until that level of complexity and resource need is in game. And you're working on automation 2. I really don't see what automation 2 is going to bring to the game. Again, there's nothing in the game that requires it. There's nothing that requires vast amounts of automation because you can just do it by yourself just fine. So anyway, those are my thoughts.